Hello students, so this is your third session of your chemistry, and this time we are going to study about the water pollution, and then we are going to also study about how to prevent them. We are going to discuss more in details about all these things.
Okay, the next topic we have is water, the universal solvent. Okay, before I explain, I will give you an example. Like, suppose you have a glass of water and then you add around 3 spoons of sugar. So what will happen is that when you start stirring the sugar inside the water, okay, the sugar will start dissolving, means they'll start disappearing. Okay, so that means the water is capable of dissolving the sugar. So this is known as solvent. Okay, so why is water known as the universal solvent? Because any substance, whether you put a sugar or whether you put a salt or whether you put a baking soda or anything, they have the capacity to dissolve large number of substance. That's why they are known as your universal solvent. Okay, so if I go separately by the term called solvent, in your textbook it has been written as a substance in which another substance gets dissolved completely and evenly. Here it means that as I have told you, that if you take a sugar and if you take a glass of water, okay, the sugar will get completely dissolved. Okay, that is known as your substance, where when you start mixing up, what will happen is that you will not see any sugar anymore, right? Because the water would have completely dissolved them, so it will get dissolved completely and evenly distributed. Okay, that's why they are known as solvent. And then comes the term called solute. So what are solute is that they are substances that dissolve in a solvent. So like you have your sugar, okay, you have your baking soda, or you have your salt. So what happens is that these are termed as your solute because they get dissolved in your solvent. Okay, the next one you have is a solution. So this solution means when solute dissolve in a solvent. So that means when I mix a water, okay, when I take a glass of water and when I take a sugar, it gets mixed. So that mixture, it is known as your solution. Okay, the mixture of your sugar and your water, okay, when they start getting mixed, that is termed as your solution. So another term you have, it is known as your aqueous solution. So this aqueous solution is a solvent is present in larger quantity than the solute solution of any substance in water. So what will happen is that whenever you mix a solution, you will see that the number of solvent, okay, or the number of the liquid or water will always be in larger quantity. Suppose I take 1 glass of water, and if I take 3 spoons of sugar, which one has a larger quantity? Obviously it's water, right? So this type, it is known as your aqueous solution. Okay, next you have is your saturated and unsaturated solution. So this saturated solution means when you have a solution, that is your solvent and your solute, okay, when you mix them, they cannot dissolve any more solute, okay, at a particular temperature, that is known as your saturated solution. Okay, so what will happen is that if I take a glass of water and if I keep on putting a sugar, but where it can no longer dissolve, suppose if I put around 1 glass of sugar, okay, and 1 glass of water, that time the sugar cannot get completely dissolved. Okay, so that time this is known as your saturated solution. And then when it comes to unsaturated solution, means a solution which can take up more of the solute. Okay, that means if I take a water and if I keep on adding a solution, if I keep on adding a solute, if I keep on adding any substance but which has the capability of to dissolve those solute at a given temperature, it is known as your unsaturated solution. Next one you have is your solubility. So solubility means the quantity of solute that dissolve in a given quantity of a solvent at a particular temperature. Suppose I have one glass of water. So in that 1 glass of water, what will happen is that I will take a solute. Okay, when I take a solute, that glass of water should have a given quantity. The given quantity is your 1 glass of water. Okay, there when I dissolve the solute at a particular temperature, okay, it is known as your solubility. Next one you have is salinity of seawater. Okay, so we know that, as I've told you, that the oceans and the seas, when you taste the water, they have a salty taste. Okay, so why does it has a salty taste is that when the rain they start falling on the land, what happen is that they start dissolving more salts and minerals. Okay, and then they bring it into the sea or into the oceans. Okay, that is with the help of the rivers. So when the rain pours in the land, it will get combined with the salts and it will get combined with minerals, and then it will go to the river, and then the river water will start flowing towards the sea. Okay, that makes the sea water more salty. So we know that all the natural samples of water, they contain impurities. Okay, especially seawater, we know that they have a salty taste. Okay, so how can we purify them? Suppose we need more water, supply of more water. So if you want to take a water from the sea, I told you that it's so salty it cannot be used for domestic purposes. So how can we use those for domestic purposes? Okay, it can be done by the process of distillation. Okay, the salt water can be purified by distillation. So in this process, what happens is that the water will be converted into water vapor, and then it will be cooled down to get into a liquid state. Okay, so we can say in other term is that first the seawater will undergo evaporation, and then it will undergo condensation, and then you will get your pure form of water. In this rough diagram, I will show you how to get a pure or a pure water. Okay, so this process is known as distillation. Okay, so here you have an iron stand, you have a thermometer, you have a wire gauze, you have a burner, you have a distillation flask, you have a salt solution here, that is the salt water, and then you have a glass tube, and then you have a condenser, iron stand, receiver, flask, and a collection of water. So what will happen is that I will start boiling this salt water that is present in this flask. Okay, so once it start boiling, you know that when we boil a liquid, they turn into a water vapor. So this water vapor will travel through the glass tube. Okay, and this condenser, what will happen is that they will give a supply of cold water. Okay, they act like a condenser. So this water will start flowing towards this glass tube. Okay, so this water vapor, with the help of the condenser, they will condense back into a liquid, and it will get collected in the flask, and here you will get the collection of your pure water. So how to get pure water is that you first start boiling the water, and then when the water forms into a water vapor, you cool it down to form a liquid, and then you'll get a collection of a pure water. I hope you're all, the next topic is on water pollution. I hope you're all familiar with the term called water pollution, right? You have been studying right from a lower classes. So water pollution means when the water is being polluted by unwanted materials. Okay, unwanted materials will include like substances. Okay, and then living substances that contains chemicals or that contain other waste materials. Okay, and living organisms. Okay, they are known as your water pollutants. And then this condition of water, or when this water pollutants comes in contact with the water, they form a water pollution. So we have many different type of causes of water pollution. So in your textbook, they have been describing about few sources or causes of water pollution. The first one is industrial waste. So by the term called industrial waste, obviously it will deal with the waste chemicals from the industries, right? So these waste chemicals from the industries, they start polluting the water, which can cause toxicity to aquatic plants and animals. Okay, at the same time, you know that there are big industries that are located near the rivers, or they are located near the where you get water supply. Okay, so what will happen is that near the ponds, so when this industry waste, when they start throwing away all the chemicals towards the water, okay, that can cause danger to the aquatic plants and animals, and this water is very unfit for drinking. Next one to have is domestic waste. By the term called domestic waste, it it means the waste that is coming out from our homes. Okay, that is, it can be like the excreta of toilet, urine, okay, laundry water and laundry waste, then washing of clothes, food and vegetable waste. Okay, these are called as your sewage. So we know that sometimes all the garbage, instead of burning the plastics or burning the papers, or instead of dumping the other rotten vegetables in a proper dumping place, we often tend to dump them into the rivers, lakes and seas. Okay, so this contains germs and microorganisms which can cause to human beings, which can cause a disease to the human beings. So all these domestic waste which we have in our home, we should have a proper sewage place where we can dump all those things instead of dumping them in the rivers, lakes, seas, etc. Okay, next one to have is your agricultural waste. So this agricultural waste, mainly it deals with the waste, okay, that comes from your agricultural crops. We know that in agricultural crops, the farmers, they tend to use pesticides, fungicides and insecticides that is used to kill the disease of plants. Okay, so once they spray this, when it drains, they start washing away those chemicals. Okay, so when they wash away those chemicals with the help of the rains, it start reaching it to the rivers, and these chemicals can harm the aquatic life and damage the human food. The next one to have is your acid rain. Okay, so in the, we know that in our atmosphere we have gases present such as your sulfur dioxide, okay, and oxides of nitrogen. So when it rains, I have told you in the previous class that when it rains, the rainwater will get polluted with the gases. Okay, so when it rains, when the rain starts falling from the atmosphere, so it will react with the sulfur dioxide and it will also react with the oxides of nitrogen, and then when it falls down, it will form acid rain, and then this acid rain will pollute water bodies and harms the aquatic life. And then another one is that dumping of garbage into water bodies. This is very serious matter. What happened is that I have told you that the dumping of garbage like your paper waste, polythene bags, food waste, etc. into the water can cause you a water pollution. So just now we have been studying about the causes of water pollutions. So the next step is the methods of preventing or reducing pollution. The first one is your sewage treatment. Okay, so here the sewage should be treated in a sewage treatment plant rather than directly release it into the rivers. So we also have a device, okay, where you can, it is also known as a sewage treatment plant. So instead of directly dumping them into the rivers, first we can treat them. Okay, we can treat those sewage in a sewage treatment plant where they can get treated. Okay, and then it will get released into the rivers. Another one is effluent treatment. So what will happen is that the polluted water from the industries, okay, should be passed through an effluent treatment plants. This effluent treatment plants is another place, okay, it's another device where your sewage, okay, or where those polluted water which comes from the industries can be treated. Okay, so that all the harmful chemicals that is present in that water which comes out from the industries can be removed. Okay, next one to have is your organic farming. So organic farming, it is very important nowadays. People also, they tend to buy more organic vegetables and fruits. Okay, why is that so? It is because they do not contain any type of chemicals. Okay, they do not contain like pesticides and insecticides. They might not be used, or the use of those chemicals may be reduced. So if we start practicing more organic farming, what will happen is that there will be a less chances of cause of water pollution. Next one to have is bathing and cleaning of animals should be avoided. Okay, so what happened is that when you go to a remote places or when you go to a village, you will see that people in the river, near the rivers, people go to the rivers, okay, or to the ponds to bath their animals. Okay, or even they bath, and after bathing what will happen is that sometimes the same water, people often tend to carry those water again, and that water will contain lots of diseases or lots of germs. So if you want to take bath, or if you want to bath the animals, what will happen is, what you have to do is that it's better to carry the water and bath them where you can, bath them not near the rivers, or you should not, or a little bit far away from the rivers. Okay, next one, trees and plants may be planted. Trees and plants, so you know that trees and plants play a vital role, okay, especially if you plant them near the banks of the rivers. Next one is that waste products from factories should be recycled. So all the waste products, instead of direct, which all the waste products which come from the factories, instead of dumping them into the rivers, or instead of dumping into the seas, what should we do is that we can find other method like recycling them, so that instead of dumping them we can reuse them. Okay, next one is that humans and animals excreta should be prevented from mixing in water sources. So what happened is that in many areas, okay, even people, like when they go to their paddy field or somewhere, any place, they often tend to pass their excreta there. So this can cause a water pollution. How is that? Is that when it rains, okay, I told you that when it rains the water get absorbed by the soil, or sometimes this, when there's a heavy rain, the water start flowing towards the river. So when the water starts flowing, it often carries those human excreta and animal excreta, which can cause various diseases such as diarrhea, dysentery and jaundice. Instead of so how can it be prevented is that we can be prevented by building pit latrines and treating the sewage properly before putting it in the rivers. Next one is that we should stop throwing dead bodies of animals and human beings into the rivers. So sometimes when you see dead bodies of an animals or human beings, people often tend to throw them into the rivers. Okay, this is very dangerous because it can also cause us a disease. Next one is a need to conserve water. Okay, why do we need to save water? Okay, so the first point is that if we overuse of groundwater too much, what will happen is that it can lead to scarcity of water. You often might observe that we mostly we use water from tube wells, right? So if we keep on wasting that water from the tube well, okay, if we don't use it properly, what will happen is that those tube well, in the tube well, those water present there, they might even dry up. Okay, so when it dry up, it can lead to the scarcity of water. So the next one is that the output of crops is severely affected by the scarcity of water. So if we have less water, or if we have a scarcity of water, the crops may not also be able to grow properly, because we all know that plants need water for their growth, right? So if there is no water, the crops also will not able to grow properly, and it may also be damaged. Then another one is that agriculture and industrialization demand a large quantity of water. So we know that in agriculture proposes plants need water, and at the same time in industries also they need a huge amount of water. So if they demand large amount of water, what will happen is that even there can also lead to scarcity of water. Next one is how water can be conserved. So how can we save water? First one is rainwater harvesting. Okay, we all know that rainwater harvesting is very important. Okay, like what is rainwater harvesting is that where you collect and store, okay, those rains. So when the rains start pouring, we can collect them and store them. Okay, that process is known as your rainwater harvesting. Another one is that more and more plantation of plants should be done. Okay, why is that so? Because plants help in bringing the rain. Next one you have is use of drip irrigation and as well as spray irrigation for agriculture crops should be used. Okay, so instead of pouring plenty of water to the crops, okay, we can use this method of drip irrigation where the water will flow drip by drip near the crops. This can be used for saving water. Okay, Another one is that if we maintain water cycle, okay, if we maintain water cycle in nature, it can also help us to get a sufficient amount of water. Then we should also avoid water pollution, okay. If we stop throwing those waste products in the rivers or in the ponds or in the lakes, we can have enough amount of water, because those rivers, ponds and lakes water, we can use them, okay. Next one is that we should avoid wasting of water. This is very important, because sometimes what happen is that even us, okay, when we brush our teeth or when we wash our face or when we take bath, we often tend to leave the tap open, okay. So that time what happened is that we waste a larger amount of water. And the next one is organizing mass awareness. Here it is very important to organize awareness programs, because if we tell our community, if we tell our society, if we tell our neighbors all this method of conserving water, in that way we can save water in each places, okay. If we keep on saving water, that means we'll get enough amount of water for our present and future use. Okay, so here I have completed your chapter on water. So I would like you to go through the textbook, okay, to go through the chapter which I just finished to explain, to read it thoroughly and try. And if you have any doubts, you could ask me.